Thailand is very chill in a multitude of ways, but in reality, there are a few things that Thai people do not put up with. In Thailand, public image as well as social cohesion is very important, and especially if you're coming here as a foreigner and you do something to push against that, it's more than likely not going to end up very good for you. How we doing? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you are having a great day. So we've got a very interesting story developing right now in Thailand, in Koh Phangan. And you know, here on this channel, we usually like to have fun, right? We like to poke fun. We like to make some jokes, right? But in regards to this story today, I think this is something that a lot of people need to hear. You know, in the age of the internet that we are in today, it has kind of changed people's images of just how the world works. And especially when it comes to Thailand, there are some things that people, you know, especially coming from the West, they just assume that this type of thing is okay and they can go anywhere in the world and they can do that and they can operate the same way they would anywhere else, especially when it comes to America. But the truth is, not everybody looks at things the same way as Americans do. I know that might be very obvious to some of you, but apparently to some others, it is not. So without further ado, let's hop into this story and let's break down exactly what is going on. Koh Phangan panel moves to revoke visas of 3 U.S. tourists over quote-unquote inappropriate behavior. Koh Phangan district authorities in Surat Thani have agreed to seek revocation of the visas of 3 U.S. nationals of Israeli ethnicity, citing behavior seen as potentially affecting public order, with the case to be forwarded to immigration police for actions. Authorities in Koh Phangan district, Surat Thani, have stepped up enforcement measures and agreed to seek revocation of visas of 3 foreign tourists, citing behavior deemed inappropriate and potentially disruptive to public order. The decision followed a meeting chaired by Paisit Thonggerm, Koh Phangan district chief, who led the district's committee for screening the behavior of foreign nationals in the kingdom, as its 5th meeting of 2026. Agencies attending included immigration police, provincial police, tourist police, special branch officers, local administrative executives, and district officials. The panel reviewed the case of 3 U.S. nationals of Israeli ethnicities. Officials said the 3 were found to have walked while carrying a flag bearing a religious symbol and had allegedly encouraged people to form a group via WhatsApp, distributing leaflets to organize an activity in Koh Tao subdistrict. Authorities said that the actions caused concern among business operators, residents, and tourists and could lead to unrest in the area. The meeting agreed to revoke the visas of the 3 individuals and prepare a report for submission to the commander of immigration police, who will consider action under relevant laws and authorities. Koh Phangan district officials said they will continue working with all agencies to monitor and maintain public order, aiming to sustain confidence and safety for residents and visitors. Now let's just get it out of the way, because I'm sure a few of you at least, are thinking of it already. Oh, well, according to that, it sounds like Thailand doesn't have freedom of religion, which is absolutely not true. Thailand is a majority Buddhist country. There is also a large Muslim population. There is also a Christian population. There is also a Hindu population. So you name it. This is in no way having to do with anything like, oh, well, if you come here and you go to your own specific church, whatever that may be, Thailand doesn't like that. That is not what this is about at all. Like we mentioned, Thailand is very proactive in maintaining appearances, right? They want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable, especially when it comes to the locals, but also when it comes to tourists, right? Because tourism is a very big part of the income for Thailand, and they don't want to kind of narrow down demographics or have certain people feel like they are not welcome. So that is something they are always considering. Now, I think the difference here is going out and flying that flag, and, you know, even the leaflets and stuff. I think any one of these things by themselves probably wouldn't be too big of an issue. It's all of them together, right? And there has already been a lot of talk going around about, you know, Thai people are concerned with certain groups coming here and kind of just isolating themselves and building their own little communities and not really integrating into, you know, Thailand life, which is very important. If you don't know, Thailand is a very proud country. Thai people as a whole are very happy being Thai, and they want to continue being Thai. They like the way that they do things, and that's just how it is. And I can respect that a lot. Thailand is very diverse as it is, so anything that could be coming in to drive a wedge in between that is going to be seen as a problem. And another reason I think Thailand is very quick to hop on things like this and, make sure that people understand, like, hey, if you're coming here, this is Thailand. We have a specific way that we like to do things. And if you're not willing to do that and you're not willing to kind of adhere to the way that we like our country to be, you're not welcome here. So Thailand very much still treats visas as a privilege, especially now with the age of the internet. There seems to be this idea that no matter where you're from, you have some right to go to whatever country and you should be able to do whatever you want. And what's okay in this country automatically needs to be okay in another country. And that is, of course, not true. Thailand is very conscious about the fact that, hey, if we're letting you come into our country, if we're going to give you a visa, we're going to allow you to stay here, you have to abide by our rules. I don't really think that's a crazy ask. There's a lot of people today who might disagree with me, but I really think if you are going to a country, you should absolutely do your best to make sure you are just going with the flow. I think this has become a serious issue in Bali as well. If you know, there's people that go there and they have no intention of fitting in with the Indonesian lifestyle. It's, hey, we're gonna go here and you have to cater to us, which I think is an absolutely crazy ask. I look at it in the sense, if somebody offers to let you go over to their house for dinner, are you going to go in there and start telling them how to reorganize their furniture, or they shouldn't be, just telling people how to live in their own house? I think that's pretty crazy.
No way.
Most of the time in Thailand, you can, compared to the West, especially, for the most part, you can just do what you want and nobody cares. The problems start to arise when what you're doing, you're either affecting other people with that or you're trying to push that on them. I have never been approached here on the streets. You don't see people out preaching on the corners. You don't see people knocking on your door trying to get you to, read the Book of Mormon with them. Don't even get me started on that. That's a whole, the more I've traveled, the more I realize how crazy that whole situation is in America, that people will just come to your door and do that. But anyways, stuff like that doesn't fly in Thailand. Anytime it comes to a point where what you're doing is bothering other people, especially the locals, the authorities are going to take a look at that. And at the end of the day, there are so many people that want to come to Thailand. They're not worried about 3 people, going and, writing a post or whatever, talking about how horrible their experience was, because there's a whole army of people on the other side from them, like myself, that will tell you, yeah, you got to really push the envelope here to create problems with yourself. So if something like this comes up and you are in the middle of it, it's pretty safe to assume that you probably earned that. Now, in this day and age, I know this might seem pretty crazy, especially for some Americans out there, and that, you may be thinking to yourself, oh, well, that's just free expression. People should be able to do whatever you want. And whether I agree or disagree with that, the reality is the world does not operate the same way that especially America does, or Western Europe, whatever. Countries have their own ways that they like to do things. Whether you agree or disagree with that, that's completely fine. You're entitled to your opinions, but that's all they are opinions. And frankly, if you think not being able to do something like this in whatever country you're traveling to is such a problem, you don't have to go there. I know, crazy, right? It seems pretty straightforward to me. If you don't like the way that a country is doing something, you don't have to be there. Granted, myself, I could have done a lot more, but before I came to Thailand, I was very conscious of looking into things like, hey, what are the major differences to life in Thailand compared to America? So I'm not that guy, right? And honestly, you should do that in every country you go to. I did have a little bit of it when I was leaving America, honestly, and you don't really realize it till you start traveling. It could be really easy to think that, oh, hey, I live in this country. This is just how the world works. Then you go somewhere else and you're like, oh, I actually saw a guy getting arrested when I was still in Pattaya I'm pretty sure he was an American guy, maybe Canadian. It's hard to tell that accent sometimes. But as he's getting arrested, I don't know what it was for. Police in Thailand do not play. If you're resisting, there's no body cams. There's no, crowd of people filming. If you are fighting against them, they are going to put it on you. And this guy took a swing at an officer and they handled it, to say the least. And this guy just kept screaming, I have rights, I have rights, I have rights. And yes, I would argue that there are a few what I would call innate human rights. That's a whole other can of worms, whatever innate rights means. But anyways, I think there are a few rights that you should have pretty much no matter where you go in the world. But fighting police and not willing to go silently, go willingly when you are breaking the law, that's not a right. The whole push back against authority, Thailand doesn't do that. If you're one of those types of people that likes to push it and push it and push it, then when somebody pushes back, you scream victim. Thailand is not the place for you. Tourism in Thailand is a big deal, right? And they are conscious of that. Immigration knows what's going on. All the government officials know what's going on, and the reality is that certain people don't like having other certain people push their way of life on them. Whether you agree or disagree, you can fight it out in the comments, but Thailand is very conscious about doing their best to make sure that no matter where you come from, if you want to come spend time in Thailand, you can be comfortable. There's a whole bunch of things that are completely fine in just everyday life in America, especially, that are not okay here. The reality is, as a foreigner in Thailand, the rules are not the same for you. And if you can't handle that, or you don't want to handle that, whatever it may be, Thailand's not the place for you. The reality is you are held to a different standard when you are here as a foreigner. Personally, I agree with that. The way I look at it is you are a guest, and if you go against the grain, you don't have to be here. Thailand doesn't have to let you be here, and they won't. I think the biggest takeaway we can get from this whole situation, if you are somebody, pretty much no matter where you're coming from, but especially the West, America, Canada, Western Europe, whatever, it's really important to understand that no matter what country you're going to, your idea of what you have a right to, or the things you're allowed to say or protest against, or, the things you're allowed to promote, it's very likely that those things are going to be much different in the country that you're going to. When it comes to Thailand, our whole idea of free speech in America, granted that has started to change in some other Western countries, don't even get me started on that. But for the most part in America, you can say whatever you want as long as you're not directly inciting violence, or, there's a few little stipulations. But for the most part, however crazy your take is, you can say it and that is fine. That is not the case when it comes to Thailand in a multitude of facets. There's certain things you just can't say or do. And if that feels like some type of oppression to you, honestly, I think it's pretty weird for anybody to go to a foreign country and willingly go there and then try to protest things. Protesting things in your country, for the most part, you didn't have a choice in being there. So, okay. But I've seen it here. There's been people arrested for, technically, from what I understand, it's a bit, hard to really grasp it. I'm not a lawyer, but from what I understand, I'm pretty sure it's just illegal for foreigners to protest in Thailand. Now, whether you agree with that or not, that's a whole different can of worms. Once again, feel free to fight it out in the comments. And whether I agree with it or not, I at least understand it. And hopefully you do too. In a nutshell, I just wanted to cover this because I see a lot of people getting caught up in this. And I think, I want to give people the benefit of the doubt and just say it's ignorance and, you didn't understand these things. But if you stumbled across this video, now, hopefully at least, you have a much better understanding that, hey, the way we do things in the West, or, the way that you're allowed to go out and interact / push / almost impose, really, that we are, how we do it in America, that does not fly in Thailand. We say it all the time, TIT, this is Thailand. They have the way they like to do things. Whether you agree with it or disagree with, there's pros and cons to every single country, Thailand included. For me, the benefits far outweigh anything that I might not be crazy about, right? So if there's this weird fixation nowadays with a lot of people where we just want to hone in on everything we don't like about something, and that's all that matters. I just encourage you, if you get caught up in that, it can be easy to do, especially with social media nowadays. Try to take everything in the yin and yang, right? If there's a place or your country that you're not crazy about certain things, okay, that's fine. I encourage you to stand up for what you think is right, but at the end of the day, try to look at the positives as well. So a bit of a more serious tone today. I had to put on my serious hat. Every once in a while we got to buckle down. I think some of these stories are important. I love Thailand. I am so thankful for the opportunity to be here and experience what it's like to be in a different culture, in a different system, and a different way of looking at life. I really appreciate that. I think it can do a lot of good for a lot of people, which is why I want to talk about things like this, because hopefully you can get the same out of it, and I don't want anybody to end up in a situation that's very easily avoidable. So if you did make it this far in the video, thank you so much for hanging out. As always, let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you think this is crazy? Do you think it's justified? Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day. Happy April. It is insanely hot in Bangkok. This is pretty much the worst time of year to be here. It is absolutely miserable, but we've got some awesome videos lined up for this month. So if you do want to be notified when those bad boys go up, you know what to do. All those fun little buttons are down below. I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you in the next one.